Not yet. Go.
Hey everybody, welcome to the November 27th MakerDAO community call. My name is David. I'm one of the core community leads. Well, I guess I am the core community lead, and I'm one of the community guys here at Maker. And during this call, we like to go over just what's been happening this week in the land of MakerDAO. We have a bunch of people from Maker here, and as well as several community members. If you're watching the recording of this, feel free to join. We do these every Tuesday, or at least we try to, but we're fairly consistent. Definitely come join us. We do a recap of all the major stuff that's been going on. To start, I guess we can go over the events. I usually leave those for last, but I know Lenka is in here, and we just have a bunch of stuff that's going on. I guess I'll start with just what's going on in Seoul in South Korea. One of our community managers, Do, is repping us at the Maker booth down there at a conference called STS&P. It stands for Smart Technology for Sustainable Development and Procurement. Very fancy. But he's over there representing us, and today's day one. He's going to be there for 3 days. I know that earlier in the week, Soren, who's here on the call, spoke at a Future of Money event in Frankfurt. He is going to give us a little bit of a recap about that conference. Soren, are you there?
I am here, yes.
So how was the conference?
Well, as you said, it was in Frankfurt. It was the what's it called? The Frankfurt School of Finance and Management that had arranged a conference, and they kind of gathered some, I would say, interesting people. There was it's long titles coming here, but there was the chairman of the Economic and Development Review Committee of OECD, and he was also the former chief economist of the BIS, whatever that means. And then there also was a former governor of the Central Bank of Spain, a former chief economist of Deutsche Bank, and Sweden was there with their e-krona project, and the spokesman from the Green Party on financial policy was there, and all in all, they really managed to gather a crowd about 150 of I would say mostly academia and policy kind of guys, and you know, in fintech, I come from the tech side, and this was very much finance on the academic theoretical point of view. They spoke a lot about Fallgeld. Anybody on this call heard about Fallgeld? So that's a kind of initiative, probably most in the German-speaking countries, that's about sovereign money. Which means that it should only be the central bank that is allowed to issue real money. And they actually pushed that to have a vote in Switzerland about whether this should go through. I think it was last year or earlier this year. And that failed miserably, but it still has a lot of momentum, at least in some progressive sets of teams and stuff like that. Also connected to that was a lot of interest for central bank digital currency, because that's also a lot of people that see that as a way to achieve sovereign money and really get away from this or reform this situation where banks actually can print money out of 99% nothing today. An interesting fact that I also learned was that even though people in the know today know that banks, they print money out of nothing, then when you go and look at the books where you teach people finance, they still have this view that banks get deposits and then they can issue credit and stuff like that. So even though facts are different, new students still learn something that's totally wrong. Anyway, they kind of recognized that also there is this crypto thing, and this certainly was a lot of people that had been or is skeptical about Bitcoin and all that cryptocurrency stuff, not real stuff. But they also realize that there is actually something there they need to take into account. So we had the opportunity to come in and present, and actually also opportunity to be a sponsor, because even though they are in Frankfurt, which is a financial center, none of the traditional banks actually wanted to support this gathering there. I think they don't like this approach about sovereign money very much either. So I got to present about Maker in the keynote, where I guess we had about 100 people, and it's really great, not just talking about plans for plans, but being able to show what we're doing with Sendwire, what we're doing with TradeShift, talk about the potential in tokenization. That's certainly also something they already are also starting to realize the potential about. But given that you can now, with tokenized assets on blockchain, that's just what the shipping container did for transportation. That's what the tokenization is going to do for asset trading. I'm sure that's really huge. So all in all, it was a great experience, and I'm sure I already got feedback. There's a lot of them saying, this is interesting. So certainly was fun.
And this is people in like the world of fintech that are not necessarily into crypto. So it's like a really sort of concentrated, powerful crowd to get exposure to, right?
It's what I think feeds thought leaders. That's what I see them. They also had kind of there's a couple of guys in the UK, I think, that written a book, End of Banking, which they are reading under a pseudonym, but one of them was there and presented. And there is this realization that the current financial system needs reform, and then it's just a question of which way to go. So I certainly think about getting some input to those that are thought leaders. I think it was a very good spot for that.
That's very, very cool. And the overall reception was wonder. Was there much negativity that you experienced at all?
No, there was curiosity and certainly some polite skepticism among some of them, but also others that actually were quite interested and came after it and said, okay, then how can you do that? And what about scalability and all these things? So that means they started to wonder about, okay, how can we drive this further, right?
Very cool, very cool. That's awesome recap. Thanks for sharing.
Pleasure.
So Lenka, do you want to go over Slush and some of the European stuff that's going on?
Of course. Hello. I'll be leaving you a bit earlier because we have a local Ethereum meetup here in Copenhagen, and there'll be a couple people who have been at DEF CON that will be talking about the learnings and the biggest eye-openers and so. So I'll be joining that tonight, and we are preparing for next week for Slush. Slush is like really a big startup event for Europe. There's like tens of thousands of participants from different startups, and they actually have like some dedicated parts of their program for cryptocurrencies and blockchain stuff. Rune will be the star of the Slush when it comes to crypto, and Maker, he'll be joining panel discussion on the first day with Lily Liu, who is a co-founder of Earn.com, and Ellie Scholl from Intuition Machines, and it will be moderated by the co-founder of Token Daily. I can post the link, and then there's like an official crypto night for the event where Rune will be in fireside chat discussing like financial inclusion. We'll also have Gustav, our BD for Europe. He'll be pitching for Maker at an event that is for different fintech startups from the region, and I myself am really excited to this will be my first Slush, so I'm really curious to see like what kind of startups there are and which potential collaborations or just building the community. So yeah, I'm really excited about that. It will be happening from like 3rd to 5th December this week. And I also know from Jocelyn, who is our community lead for Singapore, that she's also very busy preparing for Singapore. So yes, if you're joining that, make sure to say hello. If you're in Slash, please come say hi to me. And I think that's it from me, actually.
Nice. Also, I saw on the calendar next week there is the World Blockchain Summit that Du is going to be speaking at.
Oh.
Yeah, only just found out about that. But yeah, for events, that's pretty much covers everything. I'm going to move on to the section about technical milestones, online events, and just notable stuff that happened this week. So first importance, the Oasis team announced that they have a planned upgrade that's going to be occurring. The old Oasis DEX is set to expire. I have the dates here. So on December 11th, on my birthday, the new Oasis 1.5 UI and Oasis.direct are going to be launched, and the old contract is still going to be available on a second link. On the 18th, the old contract expires, and then on December 20th, they're going to be executing a cancel all remaining orders from the old contract. So there's going to be a bit of a transition. If you work with Oasis, definitely look out for that. I believe it's the first sticky post on Reddit currently. Besides that, I noticed that we have a awesome amount of Maker in the burner wallet. It feels like just yesterday we hit 100, and now there's almost 250 Maker in the burner. So that's a pretty cool little milestone if you want to count it as that. I noticed also that there's been a ton of questions daily on our subreddit, on our Rocket Chat, and Telegram, and it seems like awareness of the project is really, really picking up. And I believe that it's a part of DAI surviving and carrying its peg throughout this like really, really crazy price action. So congrats to us. Besides that, earlier in the week we had an AMA with Rune on WeChat, and WeChat is our community for, I believe it's mostly Chinese communities there, and I believe that Rune had somebody helping him translate it. I believe it might have been Jocelyn. Who was it? No, not Jocelyn. Chao Pan, I think it was, right?
Sorry for interrupting. I was basically stalking the WeChat AMA, and it was Chao setting it up, and there were two journalists, and it was all in English. So.
Oh, cool! It was in English. Nice.
It was very cool.
Yeah.
Anyway, Rune speaks Mandarin, so he could also speak with them, should it be.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's awesome. I wish I could speak Mandarin. But anyway, yeah, so as for all the technical stuff, there's not too much, but yeah, that was a cool couple of points that I had. We have a bunch of highlights from the community. Actually, today Argon announced that they sold a bit of ETH and actually used a bunch of ETH in a CDP to gain some liquidity to fund their operations for about the next year. And I checked out their CDP. They're at a solid 414% collateralization, and their liquidation price is like $37.50. And they took out about $1 million DAI loan, and that's really, really cool to see projects in the space. Yeah, Andrew, you're right. $37 is pretty risky, but it's good to see projects in the space utilizing our engine to kind of help get through this this crunch time. But Argon is a pretty cool project. Definitely check them out. I know that there was an article that came out earlier this week by one of our active community members, David Hoffman. It was called MakerDAO, Bitcoin and Two Coins, and David goes through the sort of the monetary policy of both, and like he compares and contrasts them a bit, and it's a pretty cool short read if you want to check that out. Definitely. I don't know if
now that
my
Medium account isn't suspended, it's accessible again.
Yes.
Well, also, David's here. Maybe we can take the opportunity to get him to give us like a 2-minute recap of what.
Oh yeah, definitely, definitely love that.
Yeah, so I work for an ICO kind of a consulting firm, and so a lot of my mind is spent on like how tokens capture value and their mechanisms behind each one, and so a lot of my work kind of and thoughts surround around that, and so. What kind of instigated this is just like, well, first off, just an obsession with MakerDAO and how cool this system is, but like kind of understanding how like Maker, the separation of MKR and DAI into two coins, it's almost a little bit like chemistry. It has all of the same qualities that Bitcoin has, but through the clever use of smart contracts, it's able to like distill and extract different qualities of the of Bitcoin into two different tokens. And so that's kind of what the article was about. And so Maker is this risky investment that's deflationary, that depends on network effects and adoption of the system. And DAI is this medium of exchange, value transfer, that doesn't change value, but does change value in market cap as it gets adopted. And so like a lot of the same things that grow the Bitcoin network and Bitcoin value are the same things that grow the MakerDAO network and the MakerDAO value, except through the clever use of smart contracts. MakerDAO has been able to separate the qualities of each into two separate tokens, which really allows it to scale a lot better because Bitcoin is not really attractive to a lot of people who just want to use it to exchange value. But that's something that MakerDAO solves by being able to extract the qualities of Bitcoin into two tokens and say, well, if you don't want to speculate, don't buy MKR and just buy DAI and use that to send your cryptocurrency. But if you do want to speculate, you can buy MKR, and then you get all the benefits of deflation, but you get it even more so than Bitcoin because it actually is a reducing supply than a stable supply. So I kind of go through all of these things in my article.
That's one of the things that fascinated me the most when I started falling down the MakerDAO rabbit hole a long time ago. It was because I was a financial neophyte. I didn't understand money at all. I still kind of don't, but I really didn't back then. Was this concept that risk is a quality, like risk is a measurable thing, and risk can be moved from one group of people to another group of people, or it's a thing that can be manipulated. And that fascinated me about the system, where the stability is created by moving risk to another group of people that are willing to adopt it. It still kind of blows my mind a bit, but it's an interesting perspective.
I was trying to relate it to the gas law, NV equals pressure, temperature, and something. It's been a while since I took physics, but like it's when you manipulate one, the others immediately change, and there's that same kind of relationship where there's like value and network and risk and volatility, and like if you control it on one side of the equation, it goes to the other side of the equation, and that's kind of what I see with MakerDAO.
You do a lot of research. Have you come across any other projects in the space that have sort of this dual token model that where both tokens have utility like that, or is this something unique to MakerDAO, do you think?
Well, the Spangcheng Gnosis model, their dual token model has a similar kind of mechanism, whereas the demand for one increases, the value of the other increases. And so there are other ways where this has been done, but I think MakerDAO has like the most pure and most simplified form, which there's something to say to the value of simplicity here.
Yeah, it's interesting to find somebody that describes our system as simple and pure.
Well, so it is simple. It's just we haven't figured out how to communicate it in a simple way.
I agree completely. I've had this same talk with people, is that it's complicated for the first week, and after that, once your brain reconfigures itself, it becomes glaringly obvious once you understand it. But it's that initial hurdle is the hard part.
Yeah, I'm also excited about like the future studies that will be done on like the effectiveness of like buy and burn mechanisms, because I feel like that's one of the primary ways that cryptos can actually capture cash flow in some sense, right? So that's one of the things that really drew me to Maker. I was like, oh wow, this thing has an actual business model. But anyway, yeah, awesome article, man. Thank you for writing it. It was a fun read. And thanks for giving us a bit of a recap about it.
Yeah, of course.
So moving on, we have, I saw that the Bitcoin payment processor was mentioned on Reddit. I'm not sure if this is a new thing or old, but I figured I'd mention it anyway. But they offer basically the ability to pay for online goods with DAI, but they do have a whopping like 7 to 12% fee. But it's cool to see that there are payment processors that are making it sort of like universally available. I think the way that you do it is you grab the URL of the thing that you're shopping for, and there's like a whole process. Definitely check it out. But it's cool to see that, because once you see payment processors collecting 7 to 12% interest, you know that there's going to be competition in the coming years, and people are going to be fighting for that margin. So it's really nice to see people like that emerge in our ecosystem. Another thing I saw was that the ETHX mobile wallet added DAI along with trading. So they're like a mobile wallet that does trading and storage, I guess, one of the many. So they added DAI. Simple Swap Exchange also integrated DAI. And then earlier today, or maybe it was yesterday, I saw that Block Mason's Lender version 1.5 integrated DAI. And this is really cool because I actually really like Lender because it's sort of like an app on your iPhone or any smartphone, really, that allows you to kind of lend money to your friends and then settle those debts. And it's kind of like, it's cool if you're like sharing the tab for like, you know, dinner or like, you know, giving out small loans and things like that. And originally you can only really settle in ETH, but now in their next version, you're able to settle in DAI, which, as we all know, really, really helps mitigate the risk of losing, you know, financial value from the stuff that you're trading with, you know, the beauty of DAI. But yeah, so as for community stuff, that's pretty much it. I do have a special guest with us on the call today. We have a Mr. Ken Galter here. He's the CTO of Gilded, and Gilded actually put out a post last week on our Reddit, on our subreddit, showing that they came out with a application that uses Request Network to basically help dApps and cryptocurrency companies have better accounting systems. I believe that's what it was. And he's here, and he's going to talk a bit about the project, and he's going to demo it for us. So Ken, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, how's it going, everyone? As David said, I'm the CTO of Gilded. I'm really excited to demo to you our public beta. Let's see, I think I just used the present now. Let's see. And can everyone see my screen?
Yeah,
Yes.
looks good.
Yes. Okay, so this is Gilded. Basically what we're building right now is bookkeeping tools for cryptocurrency companies. We spent the last year surveying companies that use crypto or are interested in being in crypto, and we got some feedback about problems that they're having. But the primary one is that businesses are afraid of volatility, especially as of late. So basically what we're looking at here, this is the activity view, and we're looking at multiple different wallets. So we can see here, you can add multiple Ethereum wallets to monitor. And when you go back to this activity view, you can actually see different transactions. You can label contacts that have either paid you or that you received it from. You can add categories. And you can also filter down on these specific accounts and filter down into just DAI or whatever currency or cryptocurrency you're looking for. And not only that, you can also then view these on the blockchain. This right now just links over to Etherscan. And eventually what we're trying to do is build out these tools so that these transactions can then be synchronized into QuickBooks or Xero, your traditional accounting methods. And so the part that we've been working with DAI, we participated in the Wire and MakerDAO hackathon in San Francisco a couple months ago, and we prototyped a on-ramp for getting fiat currency into DAI stable token. And so here I want to demonstrate how you can create an invoice for DAI. So here you can either send a payment or request a payment. Choose a contact from your list. We'll request one from Melissa. And so here you can either request it in BTC or ETH, or a decentralized way using Request Network. Reason for your invoice, you can select the crypto of your choice, including DAI. And here you can see this is an unpaid invoice. You can see the total amount due in the fiat currency of your choice. And then actually on the payment details itself, it'll show you what, the total amount in the crypto asset that you selected. You can view this on the request network as well. And this is actually a paid invoice here. And you can view this as well on RequestNet. So there, and also on Etherscan. So that's just a high-level view of what we're doing. We're really excited to continue integrating with DAI and Maker. One of the things that we're looking forward to doing is actually showing total account balances and allowing our users to actually stabilize the assets that they have, either using, I think right now we're looking at the Kyber network.
That's kind of a loaded question. So
sure.
Oh, that's crazy feedback. What does stabilize mean?
Stabilize meaning taking the current value, the tradable value in some crypto asset, let's say it's Ethereum, and stabilizing it into DAI.
How are you going to communicate that to the end user?
That's something that we're still working on. That is certainly a problem that we recognize. Right now, though, we are working almost exclusively with companies that are already very familiar with crypto. They either ICO'd or, they're familiar with the language in the space. We do plan on, talking to and educating new users of crypto, but that's not our current target.
Cool. Do you have any other major pieces of functionality coming down?
I'm sorry.
I'm trying to beat my own echo from your mic, but are there any other major pieces of functionality that have planned?
Mike, what you can do is you can mute while Rich asks the question.
Let's see.
There we go. That's the one we're looking for. I said, the question I asked was, do you have any other pieces of functionality or plans that you can share with us that you're looking to implement in the next couple months?
So at this time, we still are working on that prototype we initially created with at the Wire hackathon. So we're working with them on their API and getting that together. And we also still are working on that stabilize functionality that I just described. Those are the two things that I can really talk about at this moment.
That sounds cool.
So how is the integration going?
Sorry, it's killing me. Can you mute yourself again? There we go. What is the integration going to look like with Wire? Are you going to move people into the Wire ecosystem? Or are you going to handle that off-ramp internally through your own app?
So that's a great question. One of the things that when we originally prototyped that application at the Wire hackathon, there was a little bit of misunderstanding about the I guess the KYC laws and how that functionality would actually work. We would ideally like for the user to not have to worry about Wire. We want to make this as simple as possible. They deposit money into the system, and then they get DAI directly into their MetaMask wallet. But there's obviously some usability issues there, specifically about having Ether in their wallet for gas to perform actions with dApps that we currently are working on, and we think we have some solutions for that. But yeah, we're going to be catching up with Wire in the beginning of 2019.
Sounds cool.
So I have a question. So how much of this is like all on-chain, and like how much of this is maybe like server-side? Like I assume that the UI and all the functionality is somewhat the UI is probably like server-side and like you guys provide it, and then all the back-end functionality is like on-chain. Can you speak more to that? By the way, I muted you, so you can unmute yourself when you're ready to answer.
Thank you for muting me. So the processing and storing of all these transactions here, this is all off-chain. So we do grab them from different services, one of them being Etherscan to get these transactions. But then when you actually go and make payments through Request Network, this is completely decentralized with the pay with request. We would like to move more toward decentralized models, but at this moment, that's not our primary goal. We're just trying to solve problems that users have today. I believe that answers your question. You were curious about what parts are decentralized, what parts are centralized?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Here.
Here.
Please
Yeah.
mute yourself.
Please.
Yes, thank you. So yeah, I was curious about that, and so can you give us more information about how long the public sort of beta to this app is going to be available, and then like what your plans are in the future, maybe what the rates will be? Because I remember reading on the Reddit that you guys were going to be charging sort of like some sort of membership fee for using this, et cetera, et cetera.
Yes, I think that we discussed having the public beta open for several weeks. I do not imagine that we'll be closing it off. I think probably early December. I'm not entirely sure. I don't make those decisions exactly. But as far as pricing goes, we're continuing to get feedback from users when they come and use the platform. So really, we're just trying to understand, what people are looking for. So I'm not really ready to make an official announcement on that yet, but we will be posting on Reddit and on the MakerDAO subreddit, and to let people know. And actually, one feature that I did forget to demonstrate was that we do have the ability to show what the crypto asset at the time of the transaction occurred at in its fiat pairing value.
That's actually really, really cool. So
let me.
Sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I preemptively muted. Yeah, thanks.
So.
Oh, I'm still not muted. Hold on. There it is. Okay. Yeah. So, all right, that's pretty cool. How much interest do you have from like people looking to use this kind of DApp? Like over the last week that you guys have launched, can you give us like some rough numbers and like maybe the types of clients that are testing and giving you guys feedback on your stuff?
Sure. The response from the community has been really great. I think really what it's demonstrated is that it's difficult to keep track of crypto transactions with the current tool sets that are available to users. We found that a lot of users are using just spreadsheets and manually typing these things out. And we've also spoken to other companies that are spending a tremendous amount of man hours, actually going through and manipulating currency exchange rates in these traditional platforms. So, for example, using obscure foreign fiat currencies as a way to represent different crypto assets in, Zero or QuickBooks. I'm not really prepared to give exact figures on what type of response we've gotten from the community, but it has been very positive.
So Andrew actually asks a good question. Do you know of any competitors or other projects that are doing similar things to what you guys are doing?
Yes, so the primary competitor I would say at this moment is a consensus spoke called Balance 3. And from what we can tell, and they don't have anything publicly released except for a couple videos, they would be our primary competitor. And there's also a company called Libra Tech, and they are building a similar product. However, they're more geared toward enterprise use cases, with a much stronger focus on trading. We obviously would support trading and would be very good for that, but we're more focused on businesses that are trying to use cryptocurrency and give them an experience that allows them to keep track of their assets and keep track of these transactions and invoices in a way that any traditional business would need to.
So let me sort of give you maybe like a test case, right? Like, let's say that there's a supermarket, and how do they end up using Gilded? Do they need sort of like some payment processor to accept the payment in, like, let's say DAI? Are you partnering with payment processors that would basically integrate with your app, or do they just hook up their wallet to Gilded? How would that work?
So there are certainly a couple different ways that would work. Like you described to the payment processor, that is definitely a possibility. We're not closed off to that idea, but we, at this time do not have that planned. But let's say you were a supermarket and you already had a payment processor for these types of transactions. What you would do is you would just create an account with Gilded, add your wallet address here, and then you would be able to view your transactions on this page and categorize them. You wouldn't necessarily, and then of course you could use our invoicing tool to invoice potential, or actually invoice and pay invoices that your vendors have given to you, or trying to answer this question as best as I can. As a supermarket at the terminal, that would be a different integration than what we have today. You, as the supermarket, they would be able to see the transactions that happened on their wallet, but it wouldn't directly interface with that payment processor at this time.
Got it. Andrew asked if you guys have tested this outside of the team. And Andrew, so the way that I found out about Gilded was that last week they put out a Reddit post saying that this is a public beta of the full sort of up-to-date functionality of what they made. And I think that was what they're doing, that they're getting user feedback in this several week period that they just have this open to the public. But yeah, Ken, thank you. If anybody has any other questions, definitely feel free to ask Ken. Let me just mute myself, but yeah. Yeah, so if there's no other questions, Ken, just thank you for sir. Feedback. Yeah, thanks for coming, Ken. I appreciate you coming on the call. It was super interesting, like thinking through this kind of thing, and it really just I'm in love every time I see apps that use DAI. So thank you for coming on. Our community definitely appreciates it.
Well, yeah, thank you so much for having me.
All right, so I pretty much covered all of the points in my agenda. Rich, do you have anything that I might be missing?
No, I don't think so. That was a lot to cover. Mariano, is there anything happening in South America we should know about?
Oh yeah, Mariano joined.
Hi guys. No, nothing important yet. We only had the G20 in Argentina this weekend.
Awesome. Do we have any burning questions, Mariano?
No, I haven't had the time to make one. We were talking with you about some questions that we'll probably we'll have for the next meeting. We need to check some data before, but yes, for the next week we will have a burning question.
All right, cool. Well, I also usually have a bit of this meeting open to just sort of free-form community questions. So if anybody has anything that they want to ask, I know several people from MakerDAO are here. We're happy to answer your questions. And also, if anybody has anything in our ecosystem that I maybe might have missed, definitely feel free to mention it now. Otherwise, we're going to wrap up the meeting in about 5-10 minutes if you guys don't have anything. Yeah, all right. So I'm pretty much out of steam. I think we can wrap this up. I guess I actually might take this last opportunity to mention that we do have a Thursday governance and risk meeting that I like inviting everybody to. It is a wonderful learning experience, and it is a really great meeting to attend if you intend to be a voter with your maker in the future governance of the system. We talk about everything from financial risk management, how we assess assets, the game theory behind voting, how proposals work, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And it's led by our COO and head of risk, Stephen Becker. He is a wonderful guy, super knowledgeable. Definitely come out to those if you are around. And they happen at the same time as this meeting, just on Thursdays, usually. Last week we did not have one. But yeah, that's going to wrap up the call, guys. Thank you for coming out. Have an awesome week. See you guys next week.
Bye all. Thank you.